Almost 24 hours after the Indian Air Force carried out what India calls a non-military preemptive strike on the Jaish-e-Mohammed terror camp in Pakistan's Balakot, Pakistan responded today by attempting to target military installations in India. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, Pakistan's attempts were detected and that the Indian Air Force foiled those attempts. Remember, Pakistan has claimed that it had targeted non-military locations in India. However, that claim has been denied by the Indian government. Also, the Indian Air Force shot down one of Pakistan's fighter aircraft. However, the Ministry of External Affairs said that India also lost one MiG-21 Bison in that engagement. An Indian pilot, Wing Commander Abhinandan, is missing in action. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has claimed that Indian Air Force pilots, and he uses the words pilots, are in Pakistan's captivity, and that the Pakistani army has put out visuals claiming that they have the Indian Air Force pilot in custody. The Indian government says it is still verifying the claims made by the Pakistan army, whether the Indian Air Force pilot who has gone missing is indeed the one shown in the video released by Pakistan. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has also warned, and I quote, "If a war takes place, it will not be in my or Narendra Modi's control." He went on to add, and I quote again, "Better sense must prevail. We should sit down and talk." End of quote. Let's hear out the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Ravish Kumar on the engagement between India and the Pakistani Air Force today.
The Pakistan Air Force was detected and the Indian Air Force responded instantly. In that aerial engagement, one Pakistan Air Force fighter aircraft was shot down by a MiG-21 Bison of the Indian Air Force. The Pakistani aircraft was seen by ground forces falling from the sky on the Pakistan side. In this engagement, we have unfortunately lost one MiG-21. The pilot is missing in action. Pakistan has claimed that he is in their custody.
Well, that is the confirmation coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs saying that we have lost one MiG-21 Bison and a pilot of the Indian Air Force has gone missing. Wing Commander Abhinandan is the pilot identified. Leaders of 21 political parties held a meeting today to discuss the ongoing tensions between India and Pakistan. While the leaders lauded India's action of airstrikes across the LOC striking the terror camps of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, they did express regret that the Prime Minister has so far not convened an all-party meeting in wake of escalating tensions on the border. The leaders unanimously condemned the Pakistan Army's actions of targeting Indian military installations today and expressed concern over the safety of the missing pilot. Here's Congress President Rahul Gandhi speaking to the media post the all-party meeting.
Post the statement from the MEA regarding targeting of our military installations and loss of one of our fighter aircraft, the leaders condemned the Pakistani misadventure and expressed their deep concern for the safety of our missing pilot. Leaders urged the government to take the nation into confidence on all measures to protect India's sovereignty, unity and integrity. The meeting of 21 parties expressed their deep anguish over the blatant politicization of the sacrifices made by our armed forces by leaders of the ruling party. National security must transcend narrow political considerations. The leaders observed that the Prime Minister has regrettably not convened an all-party meeting as per the established practice in our democracy.
Rahul Gandhi there presenting the joint statement of the 21 opposition parties reacting to the strike by Pakistan today. Parikshit Luthra, my colleague, joins us now with more information on what exactly transpired today. Parikshit, there was a briefing that the Ministry of External Affairs held. It was a very short briefing. What have you been able to piece together in terms of the operation that was conducted today?
Well, the reason why every day the government is fielding one diplomat to brief is because they don't want multiple versions to come out and they want to keep the tensions low. This is what we learned hearing from our sources. The latest that we can tell our viewers about the operation that took place is that Pakistan fighters attempted to cross over and attack Indian army positions but missed. And this is important because when India struck yesterday, we struck non-military terrorist organizations. We did not target any military or civilian installation. And this time, the Pakistan army tried to attack an Indian military installation. IF jets were immediately scrambled and they intercepted all the Pakistani fighters. All Pakistani fighters were engaged. One Indian MiG-21 got a lock-on an F-16, and that MiG-21 brought down the F-16 with an R-73 missile. This is what our top sources in the government are telling us. The F-16 was seen falling down in Pakistani territory. 2 parachutes were also seen coming down in Pakistani territory. We have only 1 pilot missing, and this is the important point, because Imran Khan and Asif Ghafoor, the DG ISPR of Pakistan, claiming that they have 2 pilots in their custody. India saying we have only 1 pilot missing. The rest are accounted for. And this is only a perception game that Pakistan is playing at this juncture. Sources also telling us, and these are people who have worked in the Air Force, they tell us that the way Wing Commander Abhinandan conducted himself when he was being questioned by the Pakistani officials, when his video was being made, is absolutely commendable. He said, I can't say anything more than my name, my rank, and my service number. So they're saying the way he conducted himself was rather creditable, and he makes the Indian Air Force very, very proud. At the same time, we're hearing that the Ministry of External Affairs will now be the nodal body to open up a line of communication with the Pakistani government, and it's quite possible that that may have happened already, because Syed Haider Shah, who is the Pakistan Deputy High Commissioner to India, was summoned by the Indian Foreign Office some time back, and a démarche was issued. But we'll get information on that. But let's also not forget that there were casualties in that Mi-17 crash early this morning as well. No comments on that, and there will be a statement on that in the next half an hour to 45 minutes. This is what we're given to believe. Back to you.
Parikshit, appreciate you joining us with the information that you've been able to piece together. And also for the benefit of our viewers, I do want to point out that the Mi-17 crash, the Mi-17 helicopter crash, is not linked to the Pakistan airstrikes that were conducted, and hence a separate statement is going to be issued by the government, by the Indian Air Force in a short while, is what we're given to understand. But let me now welcome our panelists. Joining us this evening, Kanwal Sibal, the former Foreign Secretary, Pinaki Chakravarti, former diplomat, Nirdosh Tyagi, retired Deputy Chief of the Air Staff, John Blank, foreign policy expert. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Mr. Sibal, if I could start by asking you, I was speaking with Vivek Katchu just a short while ago, and he believes that the action initiated by Pakistan today is provocative and escalatory. He believes that when India struck non-military targets in Pakistan and made that amply clear in its statement issued yesterday, we actually gave Pakistan an escape route. But Pakistan has chosen not to take that forward. What do you make of the developments of the day, sir?
I think we should have expected Pakistan to react. I don't think that they had any option but not to react, because otherwise it would have damaged the prestige of the Pakistani armed forces badly, and that of Imran Khan. All this muscle flexing that Pakistani army and its leadership have done over decades, especially after they acquired nuclear capability, put them in a situation where they could not absorb such a blow, because India did not attack merely a target in POK, but attacked a target in main Pakistan, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region. And to that extent, it was really a serious blow to Pakistan, because they did not see the attack coming, they did not prepare for it, they could not prevent it. Their anti-air defense system was either outflanked or jammed, was not operative. So therefore it exposes a lot of gaps in Pakistan's military defense apparatus. So they were bound to react one way or the other. And for us to have imagined that we have given them an escape route and they would behave sensibly and not up the ante, would have been, at one level, a sane approach on Pakistan's part that we were expecting. But then Pakistan, which has promoted terrorism against us for 2-3 decades, has never been a rational country. So they had to react, and since there are no terror targets in India, because we don't have terror camps, the only targets that they could attack were military targets, and that's what they attempted to do. The remarkable thing in this, which has not been highlighted sufficiently, is that in 1970 vintage aircraft, though upgraded, MiG-21, which is going to be phased out completely from the Indian Air Force, brought down an F-16.
That's right. That's right.
They're one of their main, the mainline fighters. So this just goes to show how the powerful weaponry that is there in the Indian Air Force to take on even their high-value aircraft like the F-16s. We did not use our Sukhois or our Mirages or anything else in this operation. So Pakistan should learn a lesson that they're extremely vulnerable. And therefore, if they try these games again, their Air Force can be very badly hit. Now, whether matters will stop here or whether the Pakistan would wish to escalate it further, my own feeling is that India at this point in time need not react further, because we have actually taught them a lesson. The fact that we have lost an aircraft and a pilot is very regrettable. But here, I think the point to make is that when our MiG-21 was shot, all these operations take place between 2-3 kilometers of the line of control. And the turning circle is about 7 kilometers.
Right.
So therefore, unfortunately, even in this operation, the MiG-21 was in Pakistani POK territory, and therefore he crashed there and was captured. Now Pakistan will use our pilot as a bargaining counter. What kind of bargain they would want to make? This dialogue the dialogue that Imran Khan is suggesting is utter nonsense, because the issue is not dialogue. The issue is Pakistan's credible, verifiable action against terrorists, and that's the reason why we went in and attacked Balakot. Therefore, if they want a dialogue with India, they cannot use the pilot as a bargaining counter. They have to show that they are going to act credibly on the issue of terrorism. And then, yes, we've always said that we can, our doors for a dialogue are open, provided Pakistan deals with this problem of terrorism. And everybody is telling them to do so. The United States is telling them. Even the Russia, India, China communique speaks very strongly about terrorism. The Gulf countries have condemned Pulwama in very strong terms. France has done it. The EU has done it. Australia has done it. So Pakistan is on a very weak wicket, and I hope they have good sense. And since this is not a war situation between India and Pakistan, they can't treat the pilot as a prisoner of war, and therefore they should return him.
Okay, I'll get to that in just a second, but let me take the points that you raised across to Mr. Chakravarti. And Mr. Chakravarti, I want you to comment on the points being made there by Mr. Sibal that India need not react any further. What should the calibrated response be at this point in time? And does the fact that they do have one Indian pilot in captivity, at least they claim they have two, India believes that we have only one missing pilot in action at this point in time. That is what the Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed. Does this make our position any more vulnerable at all today, sir?
No, certainly not. I don't think we are vulnerable at all. And I think what Ambassador Sibal just said, that we have made our point very clearly by the attack on Balakot. They reacted, which they had to in some ways, because the macho image of the Pakistan army otherwise would have been severely dented. So they have done, and we thwarted that. So it's kind of, we can say we kind of even in the sense that, not really even, but at least something has happened from our side, something has happened from their side. And in any case, along the line of control, I think firing is going on. I think we are targeting each other's positions. So I think this is the situation at the moment.
That's right.
If we want to raise the ante, we can. We can certainly escalate if we wish to. But is this the time to escalate? And you were also hearing that Imran Khan is again asking for dialogue, etc. Now, I don't think dialogue is a possibility at this stage. I think our response to
my apologies for interrupting, sir. My apologies for interrupting, because yes, Imran Khan has said that we should sit across the table and try to resolve this via dialogue. And Sibal just pointed out that the offer for dialogue is utter rubbish until they do something credible when it comes to the terror camps operating out of Pakistan. But he also said something else. He said that if this were to escalate and spin out of control, it would no longer be in my hands or Prime Minister Modi's hands. What do you make of that statement for a Prime Minister of Pakistan to say, if this escalates, it may not be in my hands? The consequences of that?
Well, nothing is, in fact, the point of fact is nothing is in his hands. I mean, he's repeating the script that is provided to him by the Pakistan army. I think the whole world knows, even Pakistanis know that he is a puppet. And we all know that the army runs the show in Pakistan and not the civilian government. So that is a fact of life there, and we have to deal with it. But I was coming to the point about our response to Imran Khan, what it should be. I think we should say that, okay, you have said before that you want to go down the path of dialogue. You have again repeated it. We have to tell him that dialogue is possible in an atmosphere free of terrorism, which is our position. So you please give us proof first that you have taken care of all the terrorist organizations and you have rooted out terrorism from your soil and eliminated all the training grounds, etc., which is of course run with the connivance and help and full support of the army. I believe even the trainers in Balakot could have been ex-army, personnel, etc., which is the normal thing that happens in these training grounds for the terrorist organizations. So I think Imran Khan is sort of wasting his breath without actually getting the support of the army. That let him first say that we are serious, we will root out all the terrorism. Let him begin by saying that first, and then providing some tangible proof.
He said that
we have seen this for decades now. We have seen this for decades.
Yes, exactly.
And
that's
I don't
exactly
think
the point that I was trying to make. He said that a few days ago. He repeated
there's no
that.
point accepting his
that's
word.
Right. He repeated that today as well. Absolutely, he repeated that as well today, saying, but as both Mr. Sibal as well as Mr. Chakrabarti are pointing out, there has been a big distinction between what Pakistan says and what it does. Action and intent have not been linked when it comes to their action against terror camps operating out of Pakistan. But let me go across to Air Marshal Nirdosh Tyagi. Sir, difficult days for the Indian Air Force on the back of what has happened today with the MiG-21 down and one pilot confirmed to be in custody of Pakistan, though the Ministry of External Affairs says that he is missing in action. If you could take us through what you've heard my colleague Parikshit Luthra piece together in terms of how this operation was carried out. We are given to understand that there were 4 military installations that the Pakistan Air Force was targeting. This was foiled by the Indian Air Force, and to the point that Mr. Sibal made, that it was actually the MiG-21 that took down an F-16, and this is an aircraft that's on its way to being phased out later this year.
Yes, we have to keep using the assets that we have, and the assets that are deployed in the sector are put to use for combat air patrol, operational readiness platform, and they have some capability. MiG-21 in Bison version has been upgraded, and it has some capability which is modern, but the aircraft frame is old generation. So that is there, and it's well known that the force drawdown and the vintage needs quick replacement. But unfortunately, we are bogged down with the procedure and other obstacles which keep coming up every now and then.
Well, that is right. Let me also go across to Jonah Blank now, author, journalist and foreign policy expert of the Indian subcontinent. Jonah, as Mr. Sibal was pointing out, that the condemnation of the world has been swift and strong against the Pulwama attack, and they have come out in support of India. But at this point in time, I think there is concern building. In fact, we've just seen Russia putting out a statement expressing serious concern about what they see as an aggravation along the line of control between India and Pakistan. Do you believe that there is enough focus of, for instance, the US on what is happening here between India and Pakistan? We have seen that statement from Secretary Pompeo, but are they more focused on what's happening between North Korea and the US with that summit currently?
Yes, you're quite right. I think that the attention of the U.S. policymaking establishment is at least 90% focused on what is happening in Vietnam on the North Korea summit. I think that the U.S. establishment and Washington, D.C. policy hands are really underappreciating what is happening right now between India and Pakistan. However, I think that's not entirely a bad thing. India, I feel, has really taken matters into its own hands in a way that is likely to prove very effective. The raid on the camp in Balakot was a true surprise, not only to Pakistan, but even to many observers. And I'll place myself in this category. who didn't really think that India would cross the line of control that deeply into Pakistan proper. That was a very strong and, I think, effective message. I think that Pakistan learned it, and I certainly hope that Wing Commander Abhinandan is returned home safely very soon. But I think that regardless of what happens in the next few days, the Pakistani military establishment knows very well right now that India's capability is and will are far greater than it figured.
You're absolutely right on that, and that's been a point that's been made by several people over the last 24 hours. Let me also bring in Wing Commander Abhishek Mattiman into the conversation. And sir, let's spend a little bit of time talking about the way forward to try and get Wing Commander Abhinandan back. If you could help put this in context of what we saw happen during the Kargil conflict, my colleague Parikshit Luthra was just reporting on how the Ministry of External Affairs may have already started conversation with the Pakistanis because we did see Syed Haider Shah being summoned here earlier today. What would the expectation be on the engagement to try and get the missing Indian Air Force pilot back to India?
See, before coming on to the answer to the question of bringing back Wing Commander Abhinandan back to our homeland, I would take you a little back to the last week. So, the last week was one of the days during the last week was the time when the UN Security Council issued a statement. If we had gone carefully through it, in the last paragraph was a line which said that the states affected by terrorism should make use of all available means to root out the cause. So, well, that was an indication from the international community for us to employ all possible means at our disposal. So now, gradually what the narrative has come to, in fact, yesterday pre-dawn hours, the airstrike carried out by the Indian Air Force was one of a kind and meticulously and very professionally executed. But however, what happened today seems to be an outcome of the lack of a strategic plan, of a comprehensive plan. We did that operation yesterday, but what next was the question. Now again, what we did in effect was sit back and wait for a reaction. That clearly indicates that what has happened today, what has happened to Wing Commander Abhinandan today is a result of non-implementation of any comprehensive strategic plan, if at all it existed. What we need to do is address the concerns. When the UN Security Council sends out a statement, then the world is waiting and watching. They expect you to take comprehensive action, solid action to root out the evil that actually harms the entire world. We are right next to it. We get attacked on our homeland regularly, and here we are taking the discourse again to the back old age, wherein Pakistan had been talking a lot and doing practically nothing. Why are we getting sold out on that account again? If we have the capability, and if this is the moment that the adversary is in pits economy-wise and even otherwise, the world opinion was with us. Why did we wait for so long? We have to be implementing the military measures in place, concurrently carrying out diplomatic effort. See what happens. Earlier we lost time and ended up with the world community coming up against us. That is what exactly is happening. Now, yesterday, after our strike, there was no one who blamed us for anything. But today, we have comments coming in from Russia, from China, asking both of us, India as well as Pakistan, to de-escalate. So this is what is the problem. This has always been the root cause of the problem. If we have the will, if we have the potential, we have to address the root cause of the problem. It has to be a comprehensive, continuous effort in one singular dimension, leading to the conclusive end of what ails us.
Okay, let me get M. Marshal Tyagi as well as Mr. Sibal to come in on that. And M. Marshal Tyagi, I'll start by asking you to react to what we just heard there from Wing Commander Mathiman. And this has been a comment not specifically in response to what we saw happen over the last 24 hours, but Lieutenant General Huda, who was part of the surgical strikes in 2016, his single biggest critique of what happened post the surgical strikes was that there was no sustained action post that. How do you respond to the comment that's come in from Wing Commander Mathiman, and also if you could give us some sense of your expectation from here on in terms of response?
I think he's recommending escalation, and I'm recommending restraint. It's easy to talk about escalation, but you go in for any operation with clear objectives. What were our objectives? Our objective was to send a message and destroy a camp. Now, having achieved that objective, you can escalate or you can wait for reaction. If you wait for reaction, and if you're stronger, you can afford to wait for reaction. If you're weak, you should not. So if you wait for reaction, obviously there could be some losses, but we have the capability to absorb such setbacks. I'm not talking about what happened today. It was unfortunate, but we have capability to absorb many such shocks.
Yes.
Whenever we intend to take action, we can take strong action. We have that capability. So I think right now, we have achieved our objective. We do not have any clear objective. If we had any more in terms of terrorist camps, some more, I think the action would have been taken against that. It is based on actionable intelligence. It's actionable intelligence which should be available. So we just cannot go for a war just because for all the reasons which were articulated by my friend here.
Fair point. So let me bring in Kanwal Sibal into that conversation as well. Mr. Sibal, we were talking about the need for escalation control measures as well. Now, to Air Marshal Tyagi's point that we had a clear objective with the preemptive strike because India believes that they had credible information that there were going to be more Fidayeen attack launched, and hence we went after the Jaish camp inside Pakistan. That was the objective. The objective was achieved, and hence, that puts an end to this particular action. That is what the Ministry of External Affairs has said. That is what the Minister for External Affairs, Sushma Swaraj, has also explained to opposition parties in that all-party meeting. Would you believe that the need of the hour now is escalation control, sir?
Yes, of course. I don't agree at all with what was said by one of your panelists that we should have gone out and attacked Pakistan in all directions and took warlike action. It is unrealistic to expect that with such kind of a comprehensive military attack against Pakistan and its installations, there would not be an actual war that would have been triggered between the two countries with all the consequences. And this argument that because we didn't escalate at that time further, now the international community or some voices are asking for restraint and dialogue and this and that. That would have happened in any case, even if he had gone out for a full spectrum attack against Pakistan. In fact, the calls for restraint and dialogue would have been much stronger because there have been fears over the years in the international community that the situation in South Asia is very perilous because of the fact that both countries are armed with nuclear weapons, and that Kashmir is an outstanding issue. And if there is one place in the world where a nuclear war is likely, it is South Asia. This has been the general view in the international community, and we would have given them reason to think that way. But if we had gone out for an all-out attack, our objective was very limited. To tell Pakistan very clearly that those days when we were not reacting to your activities in India to support the terrorist attacks are gone, and that we are now determined to retaliate powerfully. The surgical strikes in 2016 were one such step, but it was very limited, and this use of Air Force is a very powerful signal to Pakistan, especially since we attacked Pakistani territory proper, that tomorrow if they continue this, we can take action again. So we have given a very powerful message. Pakistan had to take some action They, in fact, have suffered the loss of F-16s.
And they have.
And that is a big blow and humiliation for the Air Force, and calls into question the potency of their Air Force. I think we should leave it at that at this point. But if Pakistan wishes to take one further step to escalate, then of course we can do what we want, and the international community will understand. The entire onus on escalation is on Pakistan,
right.
And if tomorrow they take a step to trigger a wider conflict, then the international community will come down very heavily on Pakistan. And leave that aside. Pakistan is in no position. Look, it is seeking a bailout from the IMF.
That's the point.
Deep financial distress. It cannot really, if they were sensible, launch a wider attack against India and strain their resources beyond a point of tolerance in terms of their capacities. So I don't think that Pakistan will take that step, and we should leave it at that and see what happens.
Absolutely. Mr. Chakrabarti, would you agree with that? That, Pakistan, with what has happened this morning, has addressed its domestic constituency, the domestic compulsion of retaliating and responding to the strike that India had conducted yesterday. But it probably cannot afford to escalate matters any further. It is virtually on the precipice of a financial disaster, balance of payments crisis. It requires an IMF bailout. It's already on the grey list as far as the FATF is concerned. It probably does not want to be up for the blacklist when the review comes up. Given that context, do you believe that with this action and the comments that have come in from Pakistan's Prime Minister seeking dialogue, saying give peace a chance, that perhaps this is a sign that they will dial back a notch from here?
Well, Pakistan had to save face, and so they had to take some action, which is what they tried to do. But having failed in that action, they will, of course, put a narrative on it that we have succeeded and we've downed one Indian aircraft and captured a pilot, etc. But I think if we go back to what they were trying to do, they were obviously trying to hit some military targets in Jammu and Kashmir across the line of control, which they didn't succeed, and so they had to go back. And I think they will put out a narrative is that we dropped bombs here and there or wherever. I mean, they will probably put out that narrative.
Yeah.
And but I think that is for their domestic audience. And if that is to the extent they wish to go, then and then scale back and then now ask for, and Imran Khan is asking for dialogue. So I think the matter could rest there. Although I dare say that along the LOC on the ground itself, things will continue, and I think the tit-for-tat firing and etc. will continue for some more time.
You're right, and we could possibly see proxy actors ratchet things up, at least as far as the valley is concerned. We've seen that happen in the past when there have been tensions along the line of control, and that is the expectation, and hence Homeland Security must be a priority. But Jonah Blank, let me go back to you. And there has been little independent verification of the claims and the counterclaims either side are making. There hasn't been an official casualty number that the Indian side has put out, but it has said that the strike yesterday caused significant damage and significant damage to large numbers. Pakistan has made all kinds of claims this morning on what it has been able to achieve with its strike on Indian installations. How are you reading the battle of narratives and the psyops, as well as the sort of conflict of information that's playing out as well?
Psyops is exactly the right word. Something to bear in mind is that it's almost impossible to get real-time, actual, factual information about casualty count, let alone about specific individuals killed. Bomb damage assessment, or BDA, is something that every military tries to do after an airstrike, but often it's done by aircraft themselves. So the IAF is unable to do BDA after the Balakot attack. It's possible that there's some satellite imagery that could be useful, but any claims that anyone actually knows how many people were killed there must be treated with a great deal of suspicion. As for Pakistan's claims, we've got a very long history of frankly, not particularly credible claims from Pakistan about both their own attacks and about India's attacks on its own territory. So we really do have a bit of a fog of war here. The big picture, however, is that India's attack on a site not near the line of control, but in KPK, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, really crossed a line that had never been crossed since 1971. And that, rather than any actual damage, is the real story here. And that story is not lost on the Pakistani military. They have traditionally been very overconfident, and I think that their overconfidence will be somewhat tempered.
The overconfidence of the Pakistani establishment tempered because for the very first time since 1971, India crossed the line of control going into Pakistani territory to target the Jaish-e-Mohammed terror camp. Wing Commander Mathiman, you wanted to make a point, sir. This redrawing of boundaries, so to speak, India drawing the red line. What do you make of it?
See, what I see is the discourse going down the old beaten path yet again. The first question that we need to ask ourselves is, what do we need? What are we actually looking at? Are we looking at a final end to the recurring problem, or really not? Have we already settled down with the mindset and made ourselves comfortable with the fact of losing around 20 uniformed personnel per month? In case we are really looking at a permanent solution to the problem, then we must understand first how Pakistan operates. The Pakistan, everybody on the panel will agree with me that Pakistan, all about Pakistan is controlled by their army. There is a myth of the Pakistan army that exists in their awam. If you ask a Pakistani citizen about the 1965 and 71 wars, which India in fact had comprehensively and got a decisive victory in, they know it the other way.
Yes.
Through false propaganda, what the Pakistani army has been able to do over the years is, their citizens think that their army had actually won those wars. So unless you expose and bust the myth of the Pakistani army in front of its citizens, I don't think we are moving anywhere. And what better opportunity than to tackle them now? It doesn't get bigger than this.
What you mean when you say tackle them. Yes, we've addressed that. And I think the point that's being made by everyone on the panel is that we need to continue to put pressure on Pakistan diplomatically, economically, and of course militarily if it were to come to that, as we've already shown with that preemptive strike. I think there is no disagreement on that whatsoever. I also, for the benefit of our viewers, want to point out, and
whatever pressure we had made militarily in this particular context has already been neutralized by their attack today.
Okay, that's your belief. But let me go across to Marshal Tyagi, sir. The Pakistan DGISPR, sir, confirming now that they have only one Indian Air Force pilot in custody. Remember, the stories that were being put out since morning suggested there were two. In fact, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan also used pilots when he said that we have Indian pilots in our custody. But now the DGISP are tweeting saying that there is only one pilot under Pakistan Army's custody. Wing Commander Abhinandan is being treated as per norms of military ethics. Marshal Tyagi, quick comment, sir.
In the prisoners of war who returned after 71, their experience was that their Air Force intervened to make sure that our pilots got good treatment. And I'm hopeful that even in this case, although he's not a prisoner of war, that this wing commander will be treated with dignity and returned to India with honor. And that is one point. The second point, I want to comment on one of the panelists talked about battle damage assessment. You know, when you overfly the target, your formation aircraft do battle damage assessment. But when you use standoff weapons at night, battle damage assessment is not possible by the same formation unless you carry specialized equipment. So it has to be done later by other means. And I'm sure those details would be available for to the government to see what damage was done. And all the our briefings are based on what is assessed. If you've seen that our briefings are precise and they don't have to be corrected later, unlike what is happening in Pakistan.
Yes, in fact, the commentary yesterday was unanimous that the statement put out by the Foreign Secretary was perfect. In fact, near perfect is the unanimous opinion that came in. But, Mr. Sibal, what do you make of the briefing today? There was some concern on perhaps whether there should have been more details given out in terms of what had transpired this morning, and the fact that the Air Vice Marshal, who was part of that briefing, did not actually was not actually speaking. He was present but did not speak. What do you make of the comments that have come in with response to the briefing that was conducted today?
I think in the circumstances, the briefing was sufficient. We don't want to create an atmosphere of war in the country. We had certain objectives which were fulfilled, and the most important objective was to send a very powerful signal to Pakistan that the self-deterrent inhibitions that under which we were working all these years have been finally given up, and all of Pakistan is now vulnerable to Indian attacks if they continue to promote terrorism against India. I think the importance of Balakot was this. We need not go beyond that at this stage. It is very difficult to imagine that Pakistan will give up terrorism as an instrument of state policy against us. They have invested so much in this over the years and found it to be quite effective in terms of leaving us without any adequate answer to this strategy of theirs, that they will. And then, of course, these organizations have taken on a life of their own, and they have roots in the Pakistani society and in the armed forces and in the civilian establishment. So we have to be prepared for more terror attacks here and there, because I don't think this is going to end. So the story is not over yet.
Yes.
But I think very powerful signals have gone to Pakistan, which Pakistan should heed, and if they don't, then they'll pay a very serious price for this. And as you rightly said, and I had myself said that, they're in such a precarious financial situation with grey listing by the AFTF and seeking a bailout from the IMF, etc., that they don't have the resilience to really take us on in any prolonged manner. And let me conclude by saying that at this stage we don't need to use all the weapons in our arsenal. The final weapon that we have, to which they'll have no answer, is to abrogate the Indus Waters Treaty. It's a non-violent option, but it'll bring Pakistan down on its knees if we go down that road. And if they don't mend their ways on terrorism, in addition to a military response, I think this would be a very powerful response. And already we have signaled that we are willing to go down that road.
Yes, so the abrogation of the Indus Waters Treaty could be a weapon in India's arsenal. Mr. Chakrabarti, the Ministry of External Affairs issuing a statement. Pakistan has been demarched on the act of aggression against India. The acting High Commissioner of Pakistan was summoned this afternoon by the MEA to lodge a strong protest at the unprovoked act of aggression. This is in contrast to India's non-military anti-terror preemptive strike. It was clearly conveyed that India reserves the right to take firm and decisive action to protect its national security, sovereignty and territorial integrity against any act of aggression or cross-border terrorism. India also strongly objected to Pakistan's vulgar display of an injured personnel of the Indian Air Force in violation of all norms of international humanitarian law and Geneva Convention. It was made clear that Pakistan would be well advised to ensure that no harm comes to the Indian defense personnel in its custody. India also expects his immediate and safe return. Mr. Chakrabarti, a quick comment from you on the statement that's just come in.
Acting High Commissioner of Pakistan was called to the Foreign Office today to convey all this. I think he must have been told, apart from the protest, he must have also been told about our pilot in their custody. And I think sometime back the ISPR has reacted saying that we have this person in custody and he is being treated with according to military ethics. This is the kind of language they have used, military ethics. So I presume that indicates that they will be sticking to the Geneva Conventions, and without mentioning Geneva Convention. But I expect that the pilot will be held, I think, for some time, maybe used as a bargaining chip for something or the other, and we may also have our own bargaining chips. And as far as the diplomatic activity in the international arena is concerned, that has to be stepped up. And I think it would be interesting to see what happens at the OIC, because the EAM is supposed to go there. So all these are sort of indicators that of portent certain things that might happen. And I don't think Pakistan is in a position to really, escalate this beyond this point.
That's right. In fact, you talked about the OIC, where India has been invited. The Pakistan foreign minister saying that they will stand down the invitation because of the presence of India's foreign minister Sushma Swaraj. Reactions coming in from foreign nations as well. The UK saying it's deeply concerned about the rising tensions between India and Pakistan. We urgently call for restraint on both sides to avoid further escalation. Jonah Blank, let me get wrap-up comments from you. What would be the next triggers that you will watch out for very closely?
Well, I'm looking to see whether there will be efforts on either side to escalate rather than de-escalate. I fully expect that both sides are going to want to de-escalate right now because neither really has a good escalatory path. India has made its point. India, in my view, comes out the winner in all of this. And Pakistan, as I see it, has no incentive to retain Wing Commander Abhinandan any longer than a week or so in order to bring some sort of face-saving. I think Pakistan is looking for a face-saving gesture, but let's be realistic. Pakistani military establishment is unlikely to sever its ties with the terrorist groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba that have been used as proxy armies for over 20 years.
Yes, and that is a reality we must contend with and not be naive about the possibility of a severance of those ties overnight. But M. Marshal Tyagi, final comments from you, sir. What would be the next triggers that you would watch out for? And, given what we have heard from the Indian government, the demarche issued to the Pakistan High Commissioner, as well as the DGISPR's tweet now confirming that only one pilot is in custody and he's being treated with military ethics. What would your expectation be on his release and return, sir?
As I stated earlier, I'm sure and I'm hopeful that he will be treated with dignity and returned with honor. And as far as escalation is concerned, India has no desire, Pakistan has no capability.
India has no desire, Pakistan has no capability. That's very succinctly put, sir. Kamal Sibal, final comments from you.
Well, I agree with what was just said very succinctly, as you say. We should now wait for what Pakistan does. And if unfortunately, there's another substantial terrorist attack, then I think escalation or not escalation, we'll have to react very strongly, and Pakistan knows this, so I hope good sense will prevail. But then Pakistan has demonstrated time and again that good sense doesn't always prevail with them, and therefore we have to live with this situation. Unfortunately, we have lived with it for a few decades, but we'll have to live with this for some time more.
Yes. It's an unpredictable state, but the hope is that good sense will prevail. In fact, those are the words that were used by Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, saying that he hopes good sense prevails and that both sides will de-escalate. Wing Commander Mathiban, final comments from you, sir.
Okay. To say the least, I am actually shocked at the sheer pessimism expressed by some of my honorable co-panelists. By their own admission, they first say that Pakistan is not to be believed or trusted, and we should not be going by their words. In the same vein, they go on to the extent of saying that we should get used to and probably be prepared mentally to face small little terrorist acts here and there once in a while. I don't know which world are we living in.
I don't think that's a fair statement, sir.
If we have the capability, if we have the wherewithal, we need to address the problem, face it.
I would beg to differ, Vinkamana Mathiman. I don't think that has been at all the discourse here, at least as far as this panel is concerned. I think everyone has made it amply clear that India needs to be prepared to act in case there is further retaliation on the part of Pakistan.
These kind of small acts here and there.
No. The point was made. No, the point that was made was that we had a clear objective with this preemptive strike that we undertook. We've achieved that objective, and now we need to monitor whether Pakistan comes good on its claim that it will eradicate terror. We don't want to believe or take them for their word, but we do need to watch for credible action while we step up the efforts diplomatically, economically, and otherwise as well. And the military option, as India has exercised yesterday, is an open option, sir, and they repeat that in the statement today, that we will be free to exercise that option should Pakistan try any further misadventures. I think that has been amply clear, and it's been made clear here on this panel as well. But there is need to exercise caution and restraint and put together a calibrated response. And I would imagine that is what our panel here this evening is trying to focus on. But for this evening, Kaval Sibal, Mr. Pinak Chakravarti, Air Marshal Nirdesh Tyagi, Jonah Blank, Wing Commander Abhishek Mathiman, many thanks for joining us. We'll take a break. There's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere.